Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to sit back and enjoy this impossibly entertaining podcast. Because we're talking movies, we're talking Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Part 1, starring the number one person on Chris's Hall Pass, Tom Cruise, Haley Atwell, and Rebecca Ferguson, based on the series of the same name by Bruce Geller, written by Eric Jenderson and Christopher McQuarrie, who also directed. This podcast will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
I mean, you kind of took my quote by accident at the beginning. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to listen to this podcast. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? We're going to be talking about the 2-hour and 43-minute version of Tom Cruise running. So, Scott, take us away.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie.
He does run a lot. He does run a lot in this movie.
Listen, just let me talk. I'm not going to lie. This film had me thinking a lot, especially about possibly joining Scientology because, man, I want to be able to run like Tom Cruise because this man doesn't fucking sweat. And I don't think that's movie magic, because if you have Paramount Plus, there's a 20-minute doc that premiered technically this weekend, like opening weekend of the movie, that goes through all the practical stunts that were shot for this film. And they showed up a bunch of fucking running
scenes. Is that
Mission
Impossible Dead Reckoning, Making the Impossible or something like that?
Yeah. So I watched it. And they shown like a bunch of these running scenes being shot in real time, and not a lick of fucking sweat was coming off of Cruise when McQuarrie called cut. Not one.
So you would say Cruise is voodoo
shit. It's some voodoo shit, man. It got me thinking
about joining Scientology. That's the master plan. All of this, like Tom Cruise doing his own stunts. It's like, do you want to be Tom Cruise? Come to Scientology today. Climb impossible mountains and then base jump off of them.
You son of a bitch! I'm in.
I know you don't like the trivia, but you know there is some trivia that I have for this film. When this film was in production, Tom Cruise was the same age as Jon Voight was for the first Mission Impossible.
Wow. And look, I just watched the original Mission Impossible one. Jon Voight looks he looks like an older guy, right?
Yeah, 57.
Cruise, not but like and Jon Voight though, but he looks like what my body's gonna look like in about 3 years. You know what I mean? Like the amount of abuse that I put on it. Tom Cruise he's in good shape, man. He's doing all right.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's what's gonna make the conversion happen, right? Is they're gonna start doing the memes, the side by side, especially when like part 8 or comes out in like 3 years or whatever. He'll be like 62, 63 when he's filming that, and still fucking running and jumping off probably like space stations or something. I don't know what they have planned.
So actually on that topic, originally these were supposed to be shot back to back. Yes. And then I read that Paramount said, no, we're not doing that. And then I was never able to find any information on validating or verifying if they did go back to that, or do they still actually have to go shoot this second part?
From what I read, they did. They haven't shot it at all. They still have to go. Because to my understanding, the frequent delays caused by COVID actually ballooned this budget to 291 million.
Yeah, it's like one of the most expensive films ever made
for Tom Cruise's career and the Mission Impossible franchise. So my guess is, after that balloon so much, like they need to recruit a lot of this back to go back to make it, because I'm pretty sure whatever they have fucking planned for part 8 is going to be fucking expensive too, right?
Yeah, I mean, and so my numbers are only as valid as kind of yesterday. The film basically just opened. I've got 123 million made so far.
It's not bad, man. It's not bad at all.
That's not bad. On a $291 million budget, first week. I mean, and first weekend isn't even over. You know what I mean? Like it's when we are recording this, it's Sunday morning before the Thursday that you're listening to it. So by the time you hear that, this number should be much higher.
Yeah. And I think even though in the next couple of weeks it's going to have some,
Barbieheimer
major
competition.
Yeah, it was a major competition. I think this movie was entertaining enough that it is the word of mouth, I think, is going to, it might not be number one again, but a good number 3, number 4 for a couple more weeks in which it does recoup a lot and make a profit, because like you really can't bet against Cruise, right? Like, even how much I joked around with, making a Top Gun sequel 20 something years later. Like, that
and
was
look what it did.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right. Like, he knows. It's the one thing that I like watching that Paramount Plus little doc. It's one of the things that like gave me a more respect for Tom Cruise, but just not as an actor, but as a producer, because he's talking about it and he's talking about all these practical stunts that they want shot. And he says like the whole point of the stunts have to serve the story of the film, because just throwing in fucking stunts to throw in stunts, he goes, there's no point to that, because it takes you out of the story. And that's the thing, like with these films, like as big as these practical stunts are, they're all a part of that story.
Yeah, I mean, the caveat to that is you're Tom Cruise, you're a producer, you're also the lead actor. So you have the ability to put a lot of pressure on the story. The stories are basically vehicles for your stunts. So yeah, you're right. There isn't just some like random set piece that happens, but every big stunt has been basically led up to on purpose by the story that you had a lot of like input in to make sure that you got to do shit like drive a motorcycle off a fucking cliff, and then
which he apparently wanted to do since he was a kid.
And you know what? Actually, though, so everybody has seen that it's in the trailer. There's lots of conversations. I actually really love how they get you to the top of that mountain, like the why, like you're talking about story and stuff like that, like because I just figured you're like, okay, at some point he's just gonna have to do this thing, but they actually set it up fairly well as to the why. And even his interaction with Simon Pegg about, okay, just go this way, just go this way. And he's like, okay, well, when do I start going down?
Soon, yeah.
Soon, yeah.
And then, yeah, that's the thing. And then, yeah, when he gets to the top, when he has his little line, like, Simon Pegg, like, holy, I'm under a lot of pressure, right? just
and the car is driving itself and he's sitting in the passenger seat, like that juxtaposition. And the fact that Tom Cruise actually has to come up with the plan was not to do what he did. He thought he was going to just drive and jump on the drain. And so when he gets there, he actually has to be like, how the fuck do I get away from this mountain? And that almost like eureka, I know what I got to do here.
Yeah.
Okay, so my quote is, and you're gonna hate this because it's from like some nobody at a nobody publication, but I actually like the quote. Jake Wilson from The Age, I don't even know what that is. The last 40 minutes of Dead Reckoning Part 1 make up for the rest and rank with some of the most thrilling action sequences I've seen this year. I'd say like some of the most thrilling action sequences, bar none. Like, it's the problem with this film. So the stuff that it does right, it does really right. The stunts, the cinematography, and by cinematography too, I don't just mean really nice shots, but they actually do a lot of like really artistic cinematography using like Dutch angles. One of my favorite scenes in this actually is the sword fight kind of thing on the bridge
in Venice. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Fuck, man. It was beautifully shot. It's beautifully it's got that Kill Bill kind of vibe, but almost more real. And the way the drone comes up, like really stable drone work, where the drone comes up, the camera pivots around, so you get to see the entire fight sequencing happening. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful shot.
that was what it did have, like one of my favorite lines too, right? Because I know, like, spoilers, you have the thing where, the computer knows it all, but the character of Gabriel technically, is only inputted with enough information, right? He doesn't really know how it's going to finish. He's just going off, blind fate. But I did like that line when, it goes to like the pan over his shoulder and you see Rebecca Ferguson, and he was like, "Oh, I really hoped it was you,"
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, the fight scenes, fight choreography is fantastic. All the action sequencing by Christopher McQuarrie is great. Now, the problem though is it's weighed down by a bucket of shitty, fucking unnecessary exposition. Like, to the point that it's almost farcical. Like, how can we tell you all the information multiple times in the most like obvious way? You know what I mean? Like, okay, so remember, you're Ethan Hunt, the guy from Mission Impossible that solves missions that are impossible, and you're gonna go up some stairs, and you're just like that, and you're like, fucking stop, like, this is awful. We
Like, what
get
do you
it.
mean?
So basically, you describe the mission, you describe every aspect of the mission, but not only are you doing that, instead of just letting people fucking watch that shit happen, is that you have characters saying stuff to each other that those characters, because of their interactions and their relationship, would already know that information. You know what I mean? Like, especially like Ving Rhames and him going back and forth, like, they don't need to share that information. Like, don't worry, it's because I'm the computer guy, and computer guys hack stuff. But like, we know who you are. We know what your job is in this mission. So this film being 2 hours and 43 minutes, man, like, you could probably cut 30 minutes of exposition and this film would be fucking rock and roll. Unfortunately, like, there was definitely points where I was like, when the fuck is this movie gonna end? And then like an awesome dude running on a fucking train, doing all kinds of crazy shit would happen and would kind of bring you back up. But it is the last 40 minutes of this film save it. Otherwise, it would be a piece of dog shit. Oh, and I
I
love the
still,
opening, and I love the fucking opening. There is
yeah.
something. Hold on. There is no other tension like submarine tension. I just asked those 5 guys that went down to see the Titanic. Um, but like the way that, like, because of the way a sub operates and the idea of like using sonar and everybody being quiet and stuff, like, though, you can cinematically, you can ratchet up that tension so much. And I love watching submarine sequences when they're done properly, whether it's Hunt for Red October, Das Boot, and this one does it really well. Like, I don't want to spoil that opening, but just the like, we think this is happening, then we don't know what's happening, then what the fuck, how is this happening? And then whatever does happen. And I'm sure people are like, thanks, Chris, you told us zero information in there. But that opening sequence, I was like, oh, yes. Like, we are in a fucking really great film right now.
Yeah, like, I think in terms of, if we're talking cold openings, if we go to the like our previous episode on Indiana Jones, right? That technically was supposed to be um the cold opening of this movie. It was supposed to be Ethan Hunt and the Gabriel character de-aged.
Yes.
And you saw that thing, right? And I like how they chose this too. I like this one better than, kind of, especially with Indiana Jones coming out. You're like, oh, we kind of just saw this already, right? But the other
Just for
thing,
anybody who hasn't seen Indiana Jones, there is not also a sub opening.
it's
It's
no,
the
it's a
de-aging. Scott is
de-aging.
talking about the de-aging. It's Indiana
Yeah.
Jones is not on a submarine. If you watch the movie, you're like, where's the sub, Scott?
Well,
Where's the
he's on a
sub?
train.
Oh yeah. I mean, those are almost fucking exactly the same thing.
Almost the same, land and sea, whatever. But
We call it a rail submarine.
yeah, but doing the notes for this, that opening sequence was done so well that you don't realize it was 28 minutes before you even saw fucking the title card.
Yeah.
Because that's how, like, they built up that tension so well. So I know you're saying like it was long. Like, me personally, I didn't feel it. Well, I felt it because I had to pee around around an hour and a half mark.
Yeah, but
Because
don't
I
you
didn't
just use the
prepare.
bucket that the drink came out of?
Oh, because I still had drink in there, man. If I didn't have drink, I would have. But
Hold that one. Hurry, we're pitching it. What are you, a camel?
but that I kind of felt. So I was super glad when the credits came up. I'm like on my phone, like, is there any end credits thing? No, I'm like bolting out with my son. I'm like, let's go. But um in terms of story and everything, I think the one thing I kind of didn't like about it is I hate the whole reconning kind of the past to, this Gabriel character is such instrumental in, the Ethan Hunt history that, it
It's
only took
actually,
seven
yeah, it's
movies.
actually before he joins Mission Impossible or Impossible I Am, right? So
Yeah. So you're like, you know, he's super important. The guy he always wanted to go after, but it's been a couple of decades. He never thought to go after this guy before until right now.
So, and I'm going to try and say this without spoiling, but there may be spoilers in what I'm about to ask. Considering what we know needs to happen with the two items, which I still wonder how the fuck they got him off those floating sailors.
Well, they
Frozen.
said
They just
the
said that they,
ice melted, and that's when they recovered all the bodies.
yeah, but it would be like the Russian fucking Navy or something like that. It's like you're not just cruising around the Arctic. Anyway, that's besides the point. But when you think about it, like the machine doesn't want you to have the key. So as soon as someone has the key, just fucking blow them away with a shotgun. Like I did feel like there was points where you could just like fucking execute a couple people. That's it. The machine is saved, and that's the goal of the machine. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
is
if he
it
can
like
convince this one guy to do stuff for him, the machine could just be like, Scott Vega, I will transfer you $1 billion if you murder that dude over there. And you're like, fuck, done.
right? Which they had a very, like you said, they had a very long exposition when they were debriefing Carrie Elwell's character, and he pretty much said like, you know, it can get to anybody. Like humans are the
But even, and
weakest
actually,
point that.
that set piece for in the CIA headquarters, because there's, and I'm going to make sure that this doesn't get blown. So they're saying some stuff and then some different stuff happens, but they've definitely led you to believe one thing. And then you get the other thing and you're like, that's good. I like that. I like that. It's hard to talk about this movie because the twists and turns are super important. Right. And I don't want to fuck it up for anybody. And it just came out. So like people are basically listening to a podcast about people being like, bleep, 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 blank space. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'll say like in terms of choices, especially story, um Rebecca Ferguson's character, I think in reality really didn't have to be in this movie.
Oh,
I think
although
she
I'm
would.
glad she's there.
Yes, no,
I like her
I
character.
do.
It's kind of
Like
cool seeing the female, like badass, like former MI6 or whatever, right?
right, but I'm saying like in terms of the choices made for her character, there is no real point unless it's Fast and the Furious, where it's all gonna be nothing later on, kind of thing. I'll talk to you about it off the
Yeah.
pod,
Just
since you don't
because
want to do story, like since you don't want to
spoilers.
do
Yeah, well, because
spoilers.
again, I think that how all of these characters interact is really important, and it sometimes they're not acting the way you expect them to act, but for good reason. Especially Haley Atwell as Grace. Like, I do like the fact that she basically acts in her own interest throughout the whole film. You know what I mean? Like, she's doing exactly like what you would expect a thief to be doing.
Yeah, until the end. But
I want to see more stuff with Palm Clementif, Paris.
yeah, I
Like,
think she
she played
was the
almost like a
highlight.
Bond-esque style villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was like not Jaws. Who was the good? Yeah, Jaws was the one that was in
Jaws does turn
multiple.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's the one that was in multiple movies, right? Like the
Yes.
henchman that was in multiples. Yeah.
So do you recommend it? You went with
Yeah,
your
I
son.
do.
What did he think?
I think it was a good movie. It is one of the better Mission Impossibles, I will say that. And it's
Is it your
interesting,
favorite?
like no, my favorite's still part two, man. Still,
okay. We're gonna come back to that because I just watched John Woo's fucking Mission Impossible, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on with this movie?" It had been a long time, and like I always think of
nothing beats fucking doves, man. Slow motion doves. And
okay, so yeah, let's talk about this
motorcycles.
straight up. So I always forget that because when I think John Woo, the first thing I think of it is like amazing action sequences, right? But then yes, there's always the like his version of like artistic directing. Like he is not just like an action guy, right? Like he likes to have he has a thing with birds, he has a thing for like slow motion, he has a thing for like to be honest, it's very cheesy, almost melodrama. But, and Mission Impossible 2 is the most melodramatic of the and we're talking like Mission Impossible 1, I forgot Brian De Palma did it, and it's very much got that De Palma feel. And it's actually someone said to me it was very much like how the TV show was. So I get that. So I threw on John Woo and I'm like, okay, we're gonna see some fucking dope ass shit. And the action sequences are great, but the fucking drama part of it was awful, so like almost unwatchable. And like the idea of like and Tom Cruise in that like 90s hair.
But this is what I'm gonna say. I think part 2 is Tom Cruise's favorite too, man. Because if you look at this film, all the picture references of Ethan Hunt is the part 2 one, and I'm like, he liked that hair, man. He liked it. Like
he goes home and puts the hair on.
He was like, it was nothing like that. Because I think that was the first one with a major stunt, right? Because that him actually base climbing that mountain. I think that was the first one. Because I don't remember any big stunt.
I mean, and you can tell that like there's definitely stunt doubles doing work because in the films now, the camera's always on him. Mm-hmm. And then in 1 and 2, you can see those cutaway points where you pick them up from the back. So your stunt double's in there, and then the camera's above them so that Tom Cruise basically starts on the ground or whatever. And they would have used a lot of wire, I think, for it's Hong Kong style fucking Mission Impossible Part 2, right? Mm-hmm. So
yeah. But it is, I think, what was McQuarrie's first one? Was it 5?
I thought it, yeah,
or was it 4?
That's a good question. I can pull that up for you.
Because I did like at the beginning, it didn't obviously have legs because it wasn't the same vision. But I did like how at the beginning, each Mission Impossible was one director's vision of what technically like a James Bond movie would be, right?
Yeah,
like a mission.
He started with Rogue Nation. So what's that, 4?
Sure.
Okay, anyway.
I guess I can look it up too.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it was good that they actually settled on a director. I don't think that the moving between director and director was really working as well. But McQuarrie's worked with Tom Cruise on tons of stuff. Like
so 5. That's 5.
Is it 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he works with him as a director on Jack Reacher, and then obviously like the other Mission Impossible films, Rogue Nation and Fallout. But as a writer, he did like Valkyrie. Like he was actually Christopher McQuarrie was more of a writer than anything before his directorial career kicked off. You know what I mean? Like he wrote The Usual Suspects. I mean, he did direct The Way of the Gun and wrote it, but he wrote Valkyrie, The Tourist. I mean, some of these he did direct, but like The Edge of Tomorrow, like Top Gun Maverick, like The Mummy, which I'm sure he probably would like that off of his credits, but like
no, I think The Mummy he came in for rewrites.
Oh, okay. Like Tom Cruise was like, this is not working, but he seems to be like Tom Cruise's writer now.
Yeah, so
I think they have the biography will be written by Christopher McQuarrie. Tom Cruise, A Life Inside Out.
Yeah, no, I think they have a good relationship. Like, and
no, hold on. Tom Cruise, from jumping on couches to jumping off mountains. There we go.
We are not amused.
Yeah, no, I don't think he references that at all. I think he blames fucking Oprah. That was Oprah, right?
Yes.
Didn't he say Oprah set him up for that shit?
How do you get set up to jump on a couch? It's not like she was like, jump, boy, jump.
Like, how excited are you? I'm this excited. Yeah.
So are you glad you saw it in the theater? Or do you think this is gonna...
I am actually. This is I think only my third or fourth one I've actually seen in theaters. This has been a series I've usually kept to, home theater.
Yep.
But I am glad I watched this one in the theater because
Did you have the D box?
no, we just went regular, like, lazy boy chairs, leaned back. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun to watch. It was fun to experience. And yeah, like I definitely think, like, in terms of what this is doing, like, I know there's some articles out there, you guys can look it up too if you want, that technically this movie is literally Tom Cruise's like middle finger to streamers, just saying, like, going with the algorithms and having algorithms pick your movies for you, you're gonna miss out on a lot of fucking good content.
Well, and it's funny because when this was supposed to be out, the conversation around AI and stuff was very much just like theoretical, right? Like, what if this happens? We are currently in a writer's strike and an actress, or like a actor's strike. Then in AI is the stuff that they are trying to make sure that the new collective agreements deal with properly. We just had a submarine sink. Like, it's just, this movie just kind of landed in the right place at the right time, 100% by accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless Tom Cruise caused COVID to do that, which, I mean, he's got some powers.
You're not shutting this movie down!
I don't know about that, but there is I did like some of the callbacks. Like, this movie ends on a train, and so did the first one.
That train sequence is fucking awesome.
Do you know they built that train? They had to build that train.
Yeah. So they could drive it off of fucking thing.
Yeah, because they had no old trains to use that can actually be. So each what's it called? Each car was built by them. And
yeah, to be a replica of like that style of train from that time period or whatever.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, going at this was my son's first movie, Mission Impossible, right?
It was his first Mission Impossible movie, not his first movie.
No, first Mission Impossible movie, right? Same with Indiana Jones. It was funny because he knew.
You know that all of Scott's children, as soon as they come out of the womb, they're forced to watch Jurassic Park and Jaws.
Yeah, 100%.
Scott's like right? Actually, that's what I'm watching while you were being born on my phone.
Yeah, it was. I want them to hear the themes.
Your wife's like, baby comes out.
It's like, oh, it's the head. It's the guy whose head comes out of the boat. But no. And I asked him what he thought of it, because I told him, I'm like, a lot of these stunts are practical. There's not very much CG in there. And he was like, Dad, this was like a Jackie Chan movie, but he's not Asian. He was like, it was pretty good. I liked it. But yeah,
I love the quotes from the Vega household. Yeah, that sucked, or that wasn't too bad. Like,
yeah, no,
come on, really. Get more creative.
Yeah, I asked him, I'm like, so you're gonna go watch the other ones? He's like, no, I don't have to. He's like, he's like, the only thing he's upset with is, he didn't realize that this was supposed to be a back-to-back. He was like, why the fuck didn't it end?
Oh, because he didn't get the part one part.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, there's another one. He's like, when does that come out? I'm like,
next year,
2, 3. No, I think it's 20. Is it 2020?
I thought it was supposed to be 2024.
I don't know.
I'll have to look into that. I mean, yeah, that train sequence is great. The whole train sequence is great. The end of that train sequence, it's crazy because you're like, I know in my mind how this is going to play out. Like, I know what the final conclusion is. I actually don't know how the fuck they're going to get there from here. So I was on the edge of my seat, and like, again, the tension ramps up. So watch the beginning. There's a big chunk in the middle that you can go pee, eat candy, do whatever. Don't go on your fucking phone. By the way, to the little fucker that was in front of me on their phone, you're lucky I'm an old man and I just like shake my fist at stuff now, not into stuff, because I fucking hate when people fucking do that shit. Like, don't bring your phone and go on your phone in the movie, you fucking little prick.
Shut your trap and stop kicking the seats! We're trying to watch the movie! And if I have to tell you again, we're going to take it outside and I'm going to show you what it's like!
I would suggest definitely go watch this movie in the theater. You don't need to do the D-Box. I did do D-Box. I felt like it didn't really do anything. I would have preferred the nice look recliner kind of chairs. But be warned, there is a big chunk of stuff in the middle that you're going to be like, this is boring.
No, the car chase in Venice was awesome.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the fucking crazy car chase. I'm talking about all the exposition that's in there. I mean, that's redundant. Those are both the same words. But yeah, like it can be a fun movie at points, but it definitely has some low points. So it's unfortunate that they felt the need to have all that kind of bags of shit in the middle, because otherwise it's a great film.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying before, I think this is more reconning for the last one, because like this one ended, because I think you're gonna find out that this villain, the entity, was there from 1996.
I do love, like, whether it's John Wick or this, the fucking parties that they put in Hollywood movies. I want to go to one of those where this got these like crazy DJs and dancers and neon and shit. I'm like, I have never actually been to a function like that. I just want to go to one of those kind of parties.
I will say this, like my son's turning 11. When they're at that dance, at some points, because of the lighting, I'm like, are these women naked? So I'm like pretending to put my hands over his eyes, trying to real, and he's like looking at me, and I'm like, are they naked? Are they not naked? I'm like, this is a Tom Cruise movie. I think this is supposed to be PG-13. They wouldn't just throw full frontal on here. But then I'm like, fuck, man. I'm like, is this his Eyes Wide Shut callback? He heard our podcast. He's like, we need to bring that shit back.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I really appreciate about Mr. Tom Cruise is, regardless of what he does in his personal life, is that he loves film, he loves cinema, movies. There's interviews of him having tickets for Indiana Jones and for Oppenheimer and for Barbie. Like, he makes his living off being on the big screen. He wants you to see movies on the big screen. He showed up in Toronto with the director for just like a random showing of this film, like last Thursday or Friday or something like that. Like, I think that's so cool that this major actor, he can't do it now because they're on strike, but like, just like showed up and like, hey guys, I really hope you enjoy these films. Like that, I think that it's a class act for someone who has made their living in film and obviously wants people to, well, I'm sure he wants to continue making a living, but he definitely cares about it as an art form and a form of entertainment, and on the big screen, not on the streaming services. So
can we end this with a question? Can I ask you a question?
Well, you're going to anyway, so
yeah, and then we'll end this. Is Tom Cruise the last great movie star? That's my question.
Oh, sorry, you didn't let me know. Am I supposed to fucking answer it, or is that supposed to be like the cliffhanger?
No,
part 2. Like,
oh my god, you want to do that? All of a sudden, next week's episode, we start with Oppenheimer and be like, "It's an answer, you Tom Cruise."
I would say, for all intents and purposes, yes. There's only a few of them left, but I would say he's the biggest. Even someone like Brad Pitt, like putting Brad Pitt in a movie is not going to guarantee its success right now. And it's also because Tom Cruise is producing the films of Tom Cruise, by Tom Cruise, with Tom Cruise. I would say that he is the biggest marquee star and bankable star outside of maybe somebody in India, like in the Bollywood world. But yeah, for Western audiences, I would say yes. And are you going to give me an answer? Or?
I think so too, because I think in terms of the movie star too, it was all about that aura, right? Like the mystique, right? Like you can only see him on the big screen, and like to my knowledge, he doesn't have he's not very active on like most other people. I think The Rock I think everybody says that Dwayne Johnson is the biggest movie star right now, but
who says that? Who says that?
In terms of pay, I think he is the highest paid actor.
Yeah, that first off, that shit has definitely ended because he keeps running.
Well, after his
bombs.
last two,
yeah,
last three, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, but you don't get to put that guy in the same fucking conversation as Tom Cruise. Thanks, God.
I'm just saying in terms of, it's not me saying it.
Well, whoever you're listening to saying that is fucking stupid.
I think he was the highest paid, like Dwayne Johnson. But I also think in terms of him, he's opposite of Tom Cruise, where a lot of his stuff is derived and brought in through his social media. that's what gets people in there. Like he is very good at, making himself likable and stuff through his social media, where he's just like one of the people, right? Like
where Tom
watch
Cruise
him
is
work
truly
out.
the unknowable movie star.
Right. He's the mystique, right? Like, oh fuck, I gotta go see what he's going to do. Right.
He did one Oprah appearance and he's like, fuck that, never again.
Mm-hmm. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com.
I also found the part that, because I thought you were going to talk about this a bit more with the like running, where it's like, so he's being tricked to go, this way, left way through Venice. So he's just like in the middle of nowhere in Venice. Yeah. And then they're like, she's at insert the bridge name. Ethan suddenly is like, fuck it, I know how to get to that bridge. My own city, if you were just like, they're at Soper Park, I'd be like, fuck, man, I can't remember actually how to get there from here the fastest. Like, this guy's just randomly in Venice and he's just like random other tourist attraction gets there. Not quite in time though.
Yeah, where they had that shot on the bridge, the fight scene. I've been on that bridge. I have pictures of me and my wife on that bridge.
Were you fighting with swords?
I had a sword.
Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.